So I just finished RoboCop Rogue City, just completed the game, and I was blown away. So I did get access to this game early for purpose of review. I did pre-order it for the PS5. That's what I played it on. I got a review copy for the PS5. And this game, man, holy crap, this was an experience. So I got 96% completion of the main missions. That's what it says on the PS5. Took me around 9 hours to complete. But if I would have done every single thing in the game, I think it could have possibly been almost double that amount of time, because there is just so much that you could do in this game besides just the main missions. Like, yeah, there's a lot of side objectives, side missions. Some of them are, just kind of whatever. They don't really have too much bearing on things, but a good majority of them do. Like, most of them that I played through had something to do with the actual story of the game and connected things, right? And they weren't just basic little like fetch missions or escort missions. No, they were like full on, almost like additional stages for a good number of them. But where this game blew me away, it looked great in my opinion. Like, I'm not like a big graphics person, but I think the game, it looked like RoboCop. It felt like RoboCop. The atmosphere was RoboCop. The like areas in the game are all extremely detailed, but I'm not saying this is a perfect game. I do have a list of negatives that I have typed up to the side here that I do want to discuss, because there were some issues here, to be honest with you. But going back to like the different side missions and stuff, beyond all that, there is so much in the game that impacts like the flow of certain things, the way certain characters think of you, certain things that happen in the game. You have a ton of choice. Like, there's dialogue trees where you could select how you respond to things, and then certain characters will have different feelings of you based on how you respond, and that impacts the rest of the game. There's a part where there's a character, what's his name? John Mills, running for mayor. And you can impact like who wins the election for mayor by the different things you say on the news, and you might get interviewed or something as RoboCop, or certain statements you put out there can impact the election. It was kind of interesting, but the game, I'm not going to spoil anything like with the story, because really with this game, if they condensed it down, it's a game, so obviously it's not going to be as short as a movie. I mean, some games are, but if they would have made this into a movie, I think the storyline, everything that took place into it, would have fit perfectly as a RoboCop movie from way back. Like, boom, RoboCop 4. You have the original actor coming back as RoboCop in this game. A lot of familiar faces. It's a love letter to RoboCop fans, is really what it boils down to. There's characters that you remember from the movies, set pieces that you remember from the movies, just different characters, different aspects of everything. You have OCP. Like, there's so many weird things going on. There's different gangs in the game. Who you think is the bad guy? I mean, if you think somebody's the bad guy, most likely they are. But then there's some people, like, it's kind of left the question, are they really a bad guy, or are they just a piece of crap person type of thing? And then, like, it kind of throws you for a loop at certain points. Like, I got to toward the end of the game and I thought, that's it? Like, the game's done? The bad guy's gone? That was it? I was, like, ready to settle into disappointment. But then it was like, no, there's still more. And there's something else going on that kind of ties everything together, goes back towards like the middle of the game. The way the game flowed was great. Like, I sat here for the past few days, in my spare time. I couldn't just sit and play for 8 hours straight, but a couple sessions, I was hooked. It's very rare for me to be hooked on a game where I'm sitting there playing for hours on end, and I can't wait to see what happens next. And this game really had me with that. As far as the action in the game, I know when I did my video on the demo, some people had some criticisms, and it's fair. Maybe this game won't even be for you. You might not like it. I don't know. I loved it. It's one of my favorite games of this year. But in the demo, you're fighting against a certain gang in the beginning of the game, and they just all like boom, like couple shots, everybody's, you know, dying all over the place, and it seemed fairly easy. I played the game on normal mode. Like, there's several different difficulties, right? I played on normal mode, and there was tons of times where the challenge was like, am I playing on hard? What the hell is going on here? Fighting the Ed 209, like, you're gonna, obviously, I mean, hopefully that's not a spoiler, but you're gonna fight an Ed 209. It was in the trailer, the recent trailer that they put out, so it shouldn't be a spoiler. If it's in the trailer, it's fine to talk about, but I'm not gonna talk about any of the actual storyline beats to the game. But, you know, Ed 209, first time you fight him, it's like, holy crap, dude. Like, I was having a rage within me. And then as the enemies through the entire game, you're not just seeing the same people over and over again, the same enemies. Constantly new enemies are being introduced into the game. You know, at the beginning when you're fighting these gang members, they're just little gang members. Like, they're not armored up. They have some basic weapons. Yeah, they're going to be easy to kill. They're knuckleheads. But then when you start fighting like mercenaries, certain robots, and other things, the challenge really ramps up. But the game's not just a straightforward, like, okay, each level I'm just going to be shooting a bunch of people and that's it. There's investigations going on, interrogations, a lot of little things that you do. You're in the police headquarters quite often, going, you know, throughout that whole place, talking to people. And as you progress, you get skill points as you get more experience points, and you can unlock certain things as far as like focus, attack. I found myself in the game because there's a couple ways you could customize things. Like, you get these chips for your gun and then kind of set that up. The first one that you get, like the specific board, is very basic. It's just kind of like a tutorial version. But as you get more throughout the game, it really beefs up your gun, adds to the, you know, damage that you're doing. But the way I had things set up was like my gun never had to reload. Once you could do that, where your gun doesn't reload, it's just a constant barrage of bullets. It still doesn't get crazy easy. It does help with certain things, but there's so many, like, you get to certain points where maybe there's like turret guns or things that you could hack. Well, if you didn't put points into, you know, engineering as an example, you're not going to be able to do that. So, okay, you boosted up your gun. You've got no reload on it. Like, that should help, right? But if you would have went engineering, you could be hacking some of these turrets and stuff like that. So yeah, there's tons of different ways to set up your skill tree to where you change the challenge of the game. I'm actually looking forward to replaying the game and kind of doing things a little different to see how that all works out. So yeah, I really enjoyed this game. I think they did like the property justice with, you know, the entire package here. But as I said earlier, it's not without its negatives. There were a few little things that I noticed, and I noticed often enough to where I had to take note of it. So yeah, there's a few little issues here. Nothing that completely took me out of the game. Nothing game-breaking, just minor things. But let's go through that real quick. So, especially early in the game, maybe the first half of the game, I noticed this quite often, but there was weird transition graphics glitches. And what I mean by that is, like, during cutscenes, because it'd be like, most of the cutscenes were all like in-game engine type thing, where one character's on screen talking, and then it would transition to another character talking, or transition to maybe looking at a monitor or a different object. And it would like kind of be like the way the objects like quickly drew in, it'd be like that, like a split, like very tiny fraction of a second, but you could notice it. The way things just kind of glitched for a fraction of a second. I didn't notice it as much halfway through the game. Maybe I got used to it, I don't know. But it was definitely noticeable in the beginning of the game on the PS5. I don't know if it's like that on everything. That's the system I played it on. Audio mixing at times seemed a little off. There was only a couple instances where this really kind of, you know, flew at me and I noticed it, where like a character's volume would kind of go real low and then like higher. And they weren't whispering or anything. Just the audio mix was a little off. Happened a couple times. Lip syncing, that's another thing. And the voices being off happened a couple times where there's somebody talking, their mouth's not moving, or it's not caught up properly. It's not in sync. Doesn't happen often, but it happened a couple times. I had to make note of it. There was one instance of a cutscene where I don't know how this slipped through, where the character in the cutscene, it was a news story. It's early in the game. So I'm sure if it's still in the game, people will notice this and kind of get thrown off like I was. But I played it multiple times on 2 different PS5s, and it was the same thing. This weird cutscene. It's a news story, and the reporter's talking, and then it goes to the mayor, or not the mayor, but the guy that's running to be mayor, the John Mills guy, and he's giving a speech, but it's the news reporter's mouth that's moving to his voice. It was just weird. It happened just one time, but that was kind of strange. The only other thing that I kind of can nitpick is not knowing when the game actually saved. Like, okay, I hit a checkpoint, I completed a mission. There was instances where, because there's no manual saving, there was instances where I exited the game after a part where I thought, okay, I had to have saved, but it didn't. So it kind of, like, I didn't lose a bunch of progress, maybe a couple minutes, or maybe setting up skill points or something like that. But it was kind of like, I wish I knew it for sure it was saving, because that can be a problem, I guess. But overall, awesome game. They definitely did this property justice. If you're a RoboCop fan, old school RoboCop fan, I think you'll love this game. I mean, it might not be for everyone, but I loved it, and I'm not normally into like these shooters, right? But it's way beyond that. There's so much more to the game. You know, playing RoboCop, tanking along, like, you're not dive rolling, you're not running or anything. It feels like RoboCop. It sounds like RoboCop because it's the voice of the original actor of RoboCop. Oh my God, I love this. One of my favorite games of the year. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for watching. Bye.